Constitution and civil liberties. Speak of the devil. It's mine. Okay? This is a Granger law. Don't get caught up in the particulars of it. Okay? This is what it says. Okay? This is the one that challenges Gibbons. And the Granger constituency in Illinois made the case that if you have anything, okay, that is quote unquote bathed in the public interest, okay, the state can regulate it. Whether it's railroad rates or storage fees or anything that's controlled by interstate commerce, okay, that whether or not the concern is of massive public interest will override Gibbons versus Ogden, okay? This is a victory for the states. If you're a farmer in Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, there are certain things involved with interstate commerce that are bathed in the public interest. Number one are rail rates, how much it costs you to ship your stuff. Number two are storage rates, how much it costs you to store your stuff in silos and warehouses. All those rates are controlled by the Rockefellers, by the Vanderbilts, and people like that. What the states want is regulation. They want those rates brought down, and they want those storage fees brought down, and they know the federal government won't do it, okay? So they're trying to get the states to do it. So that's why they applied for this, and they want it. One thing to keep in mind here, and this is something else you mentioned when you're writing essays about the Supreme Court, you have to look at the makeup of the court. This is a half-breed Supreme Court, okay? You're talking moderate Republicans who have enough of a reform agenda where they do want to reform things like rail fees, okay? If you mention in your essays and things about the makeup of the court, that's a good thing, okay? Because increasingly, the makeup of the Supreme Court is becoming a contemporary issue, okay? Wait until Ruth Bader Ginsburg leaves the bench. Whether she dies or whether she retires, wait and stand back because the poo-poo is going to hit the fan, okay? It was enough with the last two justices because the next conservative justice goes on, gives the Supreme Court a stalwart court, okay? And it's going to be a battle. There are already people talking about packing it, okay? So again, this stuff all has relevancy, okay? This is a Granger law, okay? If you remember, the Grange is a group of farmers, okay? And the reason they went after it was to combat the railroad monopoly. If you think Kavanaugh and Gorsuch were a battle, oh my God, that's going to be tough. Resolution was introduced in the Senate the other day that when Ginsburg retires or leaves the bench, that instead of naming someone to replace her, they will name two to replace her. One conservative, one liberal. Which is another kind of version of packing the court. You know, it's going to get weird. Okay? Okay, everybody good so far? Okay. The crazy thing about Munn, what makes it different, makes it important, okay? It didn't last. Okay? Because the empire strikes back. Okay? As soon as the half-breeds lost the majority on the court and Stalwart stepped in, this law was passed. This court case was entered upon. Okay? And it goes up and it upholds Gibbons versus Ogden, saying, no, it doesn't matter about any kind of bathing in any public interest. It's plain and simple in the Constitution and the Supreme Court that anything that crosses state lines belongs to the federal government. This court case would have never come to light if it had still been a half-breed court. Okay? And again, the fact that it did come to light reflects the changed demographic. What that means is the makeup of the court. Okay? And typically you're looking conservative and liberal or moderate. So here's the thing about these two court cases. You always tie them together. You always tie them together. This one happens, then this one happens. Action, reaction. If they ask you a question like something about the changing nature of the Supreme Court, you got to have this in here. Get your big points. Pretty good. Okay. All right. Hammer and Dagenhart. Did I remember that one? Yeah, it's kind of obscure. This is probably one that you won't see. It is kind of obscure, but it's the subject that makes it important, okay? It denied Congress the right to relegate child labor.
I taught my students that Dagenhart looks like Dragonheart and kids like dragons. And so this has to do with child labor. That was the way
Dracarys.
it was a stretch, but that was the way to remember.
It does look like Dragonheart. There was a movie out one time.
Yeah.
Remember that movie, Dragonheart?
Yeah.
It's kind of bad.
That was the only way I can get my students to remember. Dragons, child labor.
It's Thor versus dragons. Hammer. Oh, look at the looks of you. My God. Jesus.
Trying.
Okay. Yeah, stretch it. Okay. Guys, this is what had happened here. Don't write this as this, okay? In the Mann Act, Congress declared that anything made by child labor that crosses state lines was illegal, and therefore the labor that made it was illegal. Okay? So what they're doing is they're trying to get rid of child labor by invoking interstate commerce. This turned that down. It said you can't control child labor through Gibbons versus Ogden because child labor is a state issue. Okay? So the reason Hammer is even important at all is it upholds the right of child labor. It's not getting rid of it. It's not saying it's good. It's just saying that that decision has to be made by the states. Okay? So this is another one that could fall under federalism, federal state. Remember the test we had where you had the big fat guy sitting there and all the kids would say, come on guys, we're ready for the Supreme Court. Because he's going to put these kids back to work because of this courtroom. Okay, you have to worry about it.